Yeah, I know. Mihai and Micah go Hollywood. Is it streaming already?
Now, yes.
Well, good morning, everyone. Most of the parents, I believe, know me. I'm Mihai Rabate, the head of school, but because we are streaming this presentation, and therefore it will be live right now and then on our YouTube channel, TV channel forever, I guess. I think it's necessary to introduce people. Next to me is Micah Kandorp, who is our new International Baccalaureate Coordinator. And we're very pleased that she joined the school in September to help us and guide us through this new journey of ours. Micah has extensive experience in setting IB programs and in teaching in the IB as well. So her wisdom and guidance and support are greatly appreciated. Micah also teaches humanities in high school. So this presentation, I would like to welcome everybody, parents who are present today, quite a few, and YouTuber or parents who are watching us online. This presentation should be about an hour long. We present for maybe 40 minutes altogether, and then there will be room for questions. If you're watching us online, please send your questions, and we will either respond back by email or respond at the end of the show if we have them by then. The show, oh my God, what did I say? All right, so Micah will present what the International Baccalaureate is and the goals and the philosophy and all that. And I will present after her very briefly what we intend to do between now and when we can enroll our first students in the 2 years of the diploma program. Thank you very much for being here. And without further ado, Micah Kandorp.
Thank you. So I'll just reintroduce myself. My name is Micah Kandorp. I'm originally from the Netherlands, where I started in international education in the beginning of my teaching career. So the IB is actually all that I know. I've taught the IB at an international school, the International School of Hilversum in the Netherlands. Then I went to London for 4 years to teach the IB DP there for 4 years. Then I worked with Mirai in San Francisco for 2 years, teaching the diploma program again, and going back to London afterwards to set up the diploma program at the International School of London in Surrey before coming here to do the same thing. So I'm also an examiner for the IB, so I examine history, both exams and what we call internal assessments, and I'll come back to that as well. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about, this is first our, our learning for the 21st century goal of the school, and you can see in a bit how much that is actually linked to the spirit and the philosophy of the IB. So what we believe is that learning for the 21st century has changed from learning maybe a little bit early in the 20th century. What we need to teach our students is creativity, critical thinking, problem solving, decision making, and of course learning needs to happen always in the classroom. Students need to be able to communicate and collaborate in the 21st century. Of course, very, very important with all that is on the internet, information and communications technology that students need to work with, but with that information literacy. And of course, we need to make sure that they are lifelong learners, but also being, good citizens, focusing on life and career and having a personal and social responsibility. That's what we feel as a school is the goal, and I will show you how the IB is actually linking into that. First of all, when we talk about the IB, it's an organization. It's a non-profit educational organization with 4 educational programs that runs for students aged 3 to 19. So they have a primary years program for the primary, a middle years program that runs from years 7 through 11. That's the English years. The diploma program, I highlighted it because that is what we'll be going for years 12 and 13. And there's another program, the careers-related program for students that want a bit more hands-on, an education that's more hands-on. Those programs are continuum, however, they can be also run as standalone programs. So it is very common for a school to just have the primary years program or to run the MYP, but then do A-levels afterwards, for example. So they are also standalone programs. At the moment, there's 4,780 schools worldwide that offer IB programs. They are operative in 147 countries, and their main activities are curriculum development. The IB regularly revises their curriculum to make sure that they meet the demands of new technology and changes in learning and education. They assess students, so they run an exam. We'll come back to that as well. They train and have professional development for teachers. All IB teachers go on courses to learn about the program, to exchange information on how to teach the program, to talk about the philosophy, etc. And of course, they are engaged in the authorization and evaluation of schools. That's their logo. So if you see that, then you know that it's an IB school. The student is central in the IB, and they start always with the IB student learner profile. This is what we expect from our students. They need to be knowledgeable, and that doesn't just mean knowledgeable about, oh, I can regurgitate information. They just need to have a wide range of knowledge about all kinds of different things. And that will come back as well. They need to be risk takers. Doesn't mean that they have to skateboard down the road. It just means that they have to do things that maybe they aren't as confident in yet, but are willing to try. That could be, for example, speaking in public. They need to be caring. There is a community and service part of the program as well, in all of them actually. They need to be reflective. That's a big part in the IB, to just look back and what have I learned? What does that mean? Etc. We need to have students that are curious, so inquisitive. We want them to be open-minded. This is a program that is catering for the world. So in international schools, you have people from many different countries. So you need to make sure that students are open to other ideas and are not necessarily thinking, oh, my idea is the right one. No, people that have different ideas might be right in their own way. We need them to be thinkers, balanced, meaning we do like students to be active within the community, next to also having an academic background, principled, and good communicators. And you can already see with the learner profile how that links into what we feel is 21st century learning, especially when it comes to open-mindedness, communicators, and being curious. So the IB learner profile goes for all of the programs, and it's quite important in the teaching as well. What the IB has also found was that they wanted to again meet the demands of modern and demands of education. So they operate with approaches to learning and approaches to teaching. So what they want from students is to develop their thinking skills. And on top of that is critical thinking. And it's very important nowadays also for universities. Creativity and innovation with a society that goes very fast in technology. That's why we need to be able to adapt, and we need to be able to be creative and innovative. Transferring your thinking skills as well, in, for example, piece of work, for example. Communication skills, that could be different ones. It could be writing skills, it could be presentation skills, collaboration skills as well with friends, how do you communicate? That, of course, links into the social skills, again, collaboration skills. And IB students need to be independent learners. So it's very important that they have self-management skills. They are organized, they should be organized, and they should reflect. They shouldn't just blame others for something that might have gone wrong, but think about, okay, I might have done this a little bit better and I would have been maybe more successful. And very important research skills. So again, information literacy and media literacy. What IB students need to be aware of as well as, of course, plagiarism, academic honesty. So that is really, really important. And the IB feels that also teachers need to adapt their teaching to the demands of modern day education. So IB teaching is based on inquiry, and it means we ask a lot of questions and we have students think about the answers before maybe finding the answers, just to think about what they can come up with themselves. It focuses on conceptual understanding. It's not so much the topics. For example, in the middle years program, there is no set curriculum. It is all about concepts. So for example, causes and consequences or globalization. And we can come up with our own topics to meet those conceptual demands. They are a worldwide program. So it should be developed in the local and the global context, meaning we might be an international school with people from all over the world, and it's really nice to use that in our lessons. However, we are based in London, and London has a lot to offer as well. And so topics will relate to both global and local issues. It's focused on effective teamwork and collaboration, very much meets what we like to do within the school, to work in teams, work in groups with students. It's differentiated to meet the needs of all learners. The IB is a program that should be open to all, they believe, and we believe. And so, you need to adapt your teaching to make sure that everybody has access to the program. And it's informed by formative and summative assessments, meaning all assessments that we do within the IB is actually formative. You work towards the end, and that's the summative assessment, and those are the exams. We'll come back to that as well. So the IB diploma program, that is what we are officially a candidate school for at the moment, and it will take us about 2 years, hopefully, to get authorized for teaching the program. And this is really the crux and the overview of the program within the IB diploma program. As you can see, the student is central. It's the little, the IB learner profile is in the middle. And sort of on top and below that, you see the approaches to teaching and the approaches to learning. And then on top of that, you see what we call the core, and I'll come back to that. But students have to do a subject called theory knowledge. And it's a subject that looks at how do we know what we know, and is what we know actually reliable? I'll come back to that as well. Students have to write an extended essay. If you're familiar with the British system, it's a bit like the EPQ. It's a 40,000 word essay that they can write on any topic that they want. And they have to engage in creativity, action, and service. And that means they have to, again, balance students. So they have to engage in something creative, could be a play or a music piece. They have to do some sports, and they have to also go into the community. On top of that, they have to do 6 subjects to gain the full diploma. And those subjects start with studies in language and literature, what we call language A sometimes as well. So that subject is their strongest mother tongue. That could be English, it could be French. However, the IB caters for basically all languages in the world. So if you have a student that is a Thai student and Thai is the mother tongue, there is an opportunity to actually take Thai. Even if there's not a teacher available, and usually it's actually their teachers are available, a student could do something called self-study, and they engage as independent learners in the subject, but on their own. So they have to take the language and literature subject, strong mother tongue. On top of that, they have to do a second language. It's the language acquisition, what we call language B. In this school, of course, we're going to envision offering French, German, Spanish, and Mandarin. We already have these subjects in place, so those are logic positions. So they have to do 2 languages to ensure that students are going to be multilingual students. On top of that, they have to choose an individuals and society subject. That's sort of humanities. Classic ones are history, geography. However, we also like to offer students the more or the lesser known of these subjects, like global politics, which really engages in politics today, but also looking back at the diplomacy in the past. Social and cultural anthropology, we have an anthropologist in school, so it's a great opportunity to be able to offer those subjects as well. And I've also put on there ESS, if you look at the sciences, environmental systems and societies. It's a subject that goes through two groups, and I'll come back to that, but we can come back to that right now with the sciences. So they have to also choose a science, physics, chemistry, biology, or environmental systems and societies. For students that are maybe not interested in a career in medicine or in engineering, and would really like to focus on more humanities, they have the opportunity to choose environmental systems and societies, which is a bit of a combination between geography and biology. And it allows them to have a science that is a bit more humanities-like and choose another in religious and societies, like, for example, geography. So they have to choose a science as well, and then then they have to do math. At the moment, there is different levels in math. I'll explain what that means. Higher level, standard level in studies. Of course, again, we've got students that might not be interested in a career in engineering. They might not be as strong in math. They have the opportunity to choose math studies, which means it's not as demanding as, for example, math higher level. So there's different levels within the mathematics program at the moment. So that's 5 subjects already. And the last subject, they have to do 6 subjects, is a bit different. It's the group 6, we call it the arts. And that could, for example, be visual arts or drama. We have beautiful facilities for drama. However, if a student is interested in a career in medicine, they might need something a bit more substantial in the sciences. They might need both chemistry and biology. And the group 6, the arts, allows for that. So instead of an art, students could actually choose another science. Or they could actually choose another language if they feel that they want to have a career that is more catered towards working with languages. They could also choose another in religious and societies or humanities. So it is a program that it's holistic, because they have to choose subjects from all these different groups. However, there is a possibility to cater towards the needs of universities or the demands of universities if necessary. Just going back very quickly, you can see the 6 subjects, students in the middle, student-centered program, approaches to learning, approaches to teaching. And I want to come back to the core a little bit, because it's also what makes the IB diploma program quite special. So first of all, I already said it, the extended essay. It's an independent research. As a teacher, you're only allowed to spend 2 or 3 hours with the student. We want them to be independent learners. We want them to develop research skills. We need them to be aware of what kind of information literacy, etc., plagiarism. So we want them to do this on their own. It needs to be an area of research chosen from one of the 6 subjects that they've chosen. So as an example, I've had students choose for history, and topics could really be something that is of interest to them. So for example, I had one student who was a ballet dancer as well, and he chose to research how the ballet moves of Louis XIV actually reflected international relations. It was very, very interesting, but it could be as in-depth and as creative as that. It's a topic of personal interest. Students need to work with this for about 6 months or longer, and so they really need to be able to engage in the topic. It's a 4,000-word essay, which is for a lot of students, quite a thing to do. However, I'm in touch with one of my students from last year, and they text me things like, "Oh, we had to write a 2,000-word essay," and I thought, that's easy. It's just half of the extended essay. So they really benefit from this experience in university. It's completed over approximately 6-7 months. They usually start in the first year, so year 12, and then finish in the second year, year 13. And that's to allow for a balance in maturity and to manage the workload that they already have. So usually they work on it over the summer holidays, What I tell my students often is like, okay, the IB, it's a demanding program. You won't have much of a holiday for 1 year, but it will benefit you. The second thing that they have to do for the core is this theory of knowledge course. It's a course that requires 2 lessons per week, and it really concerns critical thinking and inquiry into the process of knowledge. As a history teacher, for example, what I would do is to ask the kids, okay, I've now told you all about how Germany started World War I, but did they actually start World War I? How do we know this? What about the sources that we use? Are they reliable? And so students need to really think about the things that they do in class and reflect on it. For example, in science, you can think about, okay, you've done an experiment in the laboratory, but could this experiment have gone a different way under different circumstances? How do you know that? How do you know that the answer that you've given is the right one? And actually, how do you know that what the teacher is telling you is the right thing? So it really makes the students think about what they've learned in class and reflect on, okay, what do I know and how do I know this? So it really investigates the nature of knowledge. It's assessed as well. Students write a 1,600-word essay. That is prescribed by the IB. So they give us the questions a couple of months in advance, and students have some months to respond to it. And there's an oral presentation on the topic of personal interest. Again, maybe an example, I had a student that was quite high up in martial arts, and he was doing really well in one of his new martial arts school, and he was looking at is it the meditation that we do in my new school that makes the school so successful in martial arts as compared to my previous school that does less on meditation. And then you need to go really deep into not just that topic, but knowledge in general. Is meditation good for retaining knowledge? Is it good for getting knowledge, etc.? So it's a very interesting subject. As a teacher, I was very challenged teaching it for the first time. It was a struggle. But once you let go of thinking like, oh, I need to find the answer, there is no answer. So once you let go of that, it's a great course, and I absolutely love it. Students have to also engage in creativity, activity, and service, like I said, and it needs to be a balance between the 3 components, because there is no sports in the diploma program. Of course, as balanced students, we want students to continue to engage in these things that they might not choose. If they don't choose an art, they have to do some form of creativity, exploring and extending ideas that leads to a product. And again, that could be a mural that maybe they want to make for the school. It could be a painting that they want to make for themselves. Maybe they are cello players and they are quite high level, but they want to go on and do something new with it. So for example, teach the cello to younger students. That could also be a part of creativity. Activity, more sports based, so physical exertion, could be a completely new sport. Again, it could be something new that they already do on top of something that they are already quite good at. Service, engagement within the community in response to an authentic need. Again, that could be the school that might need something. For example, we had a student that wanted to create a system for students to communicate within the school system, and he set up this whole ICT communicative system. I don't know how it worked, but it was pretty good. So it needs to be, a real purposeful activity, and it needs to have a significant outcome. It needs to be a personal challenge. It's not that students are good at martial arts, so they just have done 10 lessons of martial arts and that's it. No, it needs to be a challenge. It needs to have some consideration. They need to plan it. They need to review it. They need to reflect on it, obviously, and they need to create a portfolio. The CAS program runs over 18 months. It's not like they can do it in the first week and are done with it. Again, we want our students to be balanced, and outside of the curriculum, we want them to engage with other things as well. So that is an important part of the diploma program. Coming back to the subjects, the 6 subjects, they need to do these subjects at standard level and higher level. The diploma program demands that they do 3 subjects at standard level, which is 150 instruction hours, and 3 subjects at higher level, which is 240 instruction hours. Usually what it means is that you go further in depth or you have some additional topics. And again, it caters for the needs of universities. If you are interested in a career in medicine, then you want to take biology and chemistry at higher level because the universities like to see those subjects at higher level. If you are interested in a career in politics, then universities might say, we want you to have history at higher level. So it gives the students a bit more depth and preparation for what they intend to do at university. However, all subjects require the following work. They need to write an internal assessment, and the internal assessment is again an individual piece of work. It could be an oral exam, it could be some lab work that they design themselves, but it could also be an essay. In history, for example, it is required that they write an essay, that they come up with the topic themselves, they phrase the research question themselves, and they do the research themselves. In geography, it's more catered to the course, and it's, for example, field work. Same for biology. They also have to sit their exams. There's 2 exam sessions, one in May and one in November. For the Northern Hemisphere, we usually go for the May exam session. So that's the external assessment. And it's very important to understand that this is a 2-year program. It starts at the beginning of year 12. Everything that they do in year 12 will come up on their exams in year 13. So if we start our first cohort in 2019, they will sit their exams in May 21. In assessment in general, assessment is important. Very quickly, you know, these internal assessments, like I already said, could be oral, could be field work. Sometimes the teacher assesses the work. However, it is always moderated by the IB. So what happens is they will say, send us a selection of the work of your students. It goes to an examiner. They check if the teacher has met the requirements. And that is to really allow for a fair judgment, meaning, you know, as a teacher, you shouldn't be overly excited about your students' work. It needs to really meet certain standards. However, you should also not be too strict. So it's really monitored by the IB. And it's always criterion based. So we work with Brits, for example, in history that will say, you know, the essay shows depth, it you know, shows extensive knowledge, it has critical thinking, and that's what we base the assessment on. The external assessments, that's the exams. So the May session, also the extended essays sent to the IB, the TOK essays sent to the IB. And exams usually consist of essays, structured problems when it's, you know, concerning physics or math. Could be short response questions, data response questions, more text response questions, and case study questions. There's very, very little multiple choice questions. It happens in chemistry for one exam, but it's rarely used. So it's really about their critical thinking and their communication skills. The diploma. Each subject, we work with grades out of 7. So if you are a perfect student and you have 6 subjects and you get a 7 for each subject, you can get 42 points. However, the diploma works out of 45 points. How does that work? Theory of knowledge and the extended essay combined could result in 3 extra, what we call bonus points. So students could gain a total of 45 points. There is no inflation of grades. And that's probably what makes the IB successful as well. We saw in the British system is that lots of students were getting A's and A stars, and then they get the A star, and because the inflation is happening. However, not in the IB, and so you can see that the global average in May 2015 was 29.88 points. Universities are very clear nowadays in what they would like to see. So, for example, if you are aiming for Oxford or Cambridge, they might say we would like to see 39 points. Maybe Exeter will say, if you want to study politics with us, we expect something like 32 points. So universities know the program very, very well. They know the demands very well. And the IB works with the universities especially in Britain as well, and is constantly talking about the changes in the program, the demands, and making sure that universities are fair in what they expect from our students. The perfect score, 45 points, it doesn't happen very often. 260 students worldwide in 2015 out of 141,831 students. So again, there's no inflation of grades, and that's making the program reliable and seen by universities as a serious and rigorous program that is reliable in the results. 10 reasons why universities love the IB. It increases academic opportunity. Again, this is a program that is run worldwide. Universities know it worldwide. I had a student go to Oklahoma and I thought they'll never know the IB, but lo and behold, it had on their website, this is what we expect. So it is well known all over the world, and students are often accepted with an IB diploma. IB students care about just more than results. They also have to do CAS, the learning out of the classroom, and engage with their own topics that they make up, that their research. Students become confident and independent learners. That's not just the extended essay that they have to write, but also their internal assessments that they have to do on their own. It's international, obviously. It, again, recognized all over the world. Students are globally minded. This is not a program that focuses on a particular country or a particular, focus, for example, within history. It is very broad and focusing on all regions in the world. It encourages critical thinking, so it focuses on analysis and evaluation, generating ideas, considering new perspectives, and that is something that universities love. It develops time management skills, again, very, very important for universities, because students need to be able to really focus on doing the work and be used to sitting down and actually doing it instead of having suddenly an amount of free time and they're not able to sit down and do the work because they're not used to it. Assessment is not merely about examination techniques. Yes, we have essay questions, but it's about understanding the question, and it's not just memorizing facts. The subjects are not taught in isolation, meaning we connect, we try and work together with the subjects. And one of the ways of doing that is this theory of knowledge, where we look at, is knowledge the same in history as it is in science? Or is history a science, compared to chemistry? So again, we try and connect as much as possible, and it encourages a breadth and depth in learning. And again, it's 6 subject groups, whereas A levels usually does 3 or 4 subjects. So IB diploma program, ideal preparation for university. And again, I hear it very, very often from my students when they come back to me in their first year of university and they say, it's easy. It's just like the IB. It's the same amount of work and all the students are panicking and I'm just thinking, it's just another internal assessment. What I like about the IB and what we value as a school about the IBDP, it is an internationally minded curriculum. As an international school, that is important for us. The content allows for in-depth analysis. Instead of having a couple of lessons for a topic, we have an extensive time for a topic so that we can really go in depth and look at all kinds of different perspectives. So for example, when it comes to World War I, you could study the causes of World War I, but we on top could also study, well, what do historians say about the causes of World War I? What kind of perspectives do we have? The curriculum prepares students for university, and it allows for flexibility in choosing of topics. Again, these 6 subjects allow for students to really cater for their own needs. I love the teaching. We like the teaching. It's not teaching to the exam. It's about skills. It's about concepts. It's not so much about the topics itself. The approaches to teaching, inquiry-based learning is something that we really value as a school, having students think about things themselves. And you work very, very closely with teachers from all over the world, through all kinds of different things. You go on courses, you meet students, you meet teachers in courses, and you keep in touch with emails saying, what do you do? Do you have any ideas? So that's really, really nice as well. students. They are open-minded, they're motivated, they're interested in the world around them. And as an international school, you can always use the background of the students in your curriculum. How does that work in your country, for example? And they're well-rounded because of these 6 subjects. Just some quotes from universities and people working for the IB as well. Obviously, it's an integrated program rather than a series of separate qualifications like A-levels. Again, you do and try connect the subjects as much as possible. It gives you a very highly rated exam qualifications and teaching the skills that you need for life. So again, critical thinking, information literacy. So whatever you do in the future, it's going to benefit you. Very important, the one on the bottom, the IB has not suffered grade inflation, which gives it extra credibility for UK universities. That is important for universities to know as well, because they can rely on the grades. And American universities are very favorable to the IB, and it's very clearly understood in the Netherlands, Germany, and France. And again, it's spreading around the world. The knowing it. Spain is, for example, one of the countries that is now starting to really know the program and accept it. American universities like it so much that sometimes they give credit for IB grades. So if you, for example, score a 5 for chemistry, you can skip the first year in chemistry at the American universities. And it shows a little bit about the rigor as well of the IB. So we're going through the authorization process at the moment. We have been given the candidate status in June 2017, last June. They have given us a consultant, Mrs. Sue Austin. I'm in regular touch with her. She gives advice. She helps us with the whole process. And so what we are doing right now is building the program. That means familiarization with the program, presenting to the parents, what is it, what is the philosophy, what is the curriculum, and also, of course, to the community of teachers. Teachers go on teacher training, teachers that are interested in teaching this program or sometimes already know it. We have quite some teachers already in the school that are familiar with the diploma program, that have taught it previously. We're building our curriculum, looking at, okay, what topics would fit in our school, what subjects would our students be interested in. And then in spring 2018, we will have a pre-authorization visit from our consultant, Mrs. Sue Austin. And she's going to then look at, okay, is everything in place that you need to have for the authorization itself? And if she says yes, or you need to kind of look at this a bit more, you can start applying for the authorization, the official authorization, and we anticipate that is going to happen somewhere in the winter of 2018, or early 2019, where we will have a visit from the IB. They're going to look at our school, at the program that we've set up, and then hopefully we will be able to start the program in September 2019 and have our first graduating class in 2021. Are there any questions?
Yes. Yes, please. Thank you so much. That was very interesting, and I can definitely see the appeal of the program. Yes. I have 2 quick questions. The first one is, when you get your authorization, are you going to select students from the student body? Is there a selection in order to join the program? That's my first question.
Yeah.
And my second question is, what about special needs? For instance, if you have a kid with dyslexia, there is so much input, focus on written examination. Have you come across students?
Absolutely, yes. Very, very good questions. First of all, is it selective? The IB is very, very keen on being a non-selective program, sorry. So is there a selection process? Yes and no. The IB is not for everybody because it is a rigorous program and it demands a lot of time from students. That could, for example, hurt students that are very much engaged in sports. I've had students that were, almost professional swimmers, and they were struggling with the program. Some students might struggle with the actual work. However, it is a non-selective program, and so what we need to do is to make sure that students and parents understand the full demands of the program, that students are aware of that as well. And of course, we will look at their background a little bit to see if they're suited to the program. The great thing about our school is that we have several things running alongside one another. Just before answering your question, coming back to special needs, the IB is very aware of that and they cater for it as well. So for example, special needs, students are allowed, you need to ask in advance, you need to give the paperwork, but students with dyslexia, for example, will be given additional time. They will be sitting the exams in a separate room where there's, for example, computers available so that they don't have to write by hand if that is difficult. It happens not super frequently, of course, but I've seen it in my career a lot, and yes, they cater for it. And the IB is progressing as well when it comes to ICT. So for example, exams in the middle year program are already fully online. They don't write by hand anymore. So yes, they cater for special needs.
Thank you for a great presentation. I have one question that may be directed to. Yes, I have one question which is related to the relationship with the school and then the university at the end of première terminale and I guess at the end of your 12 and 13. Will you create a separate bureau that will cater for the IB relationship with the university, or will you combine? It's a combine, yeah?
Yes. The career service.
That's right.
Yeah, career department is the same one, whatever the students will choose for the exam they take, whether it's a French bac or international diploma.
How will you make sure that there's not cannibalization of those two diploma when it comes to university relationship? You know, will you have some? Will you try to maintain a healthy percentage of French baccalaureate and IB that go to the? And I would love to understand how, in the past, it may have happened. I would love to hear your views there.
Okay, I think it's a question for the broader maybe than the IB coordinator. It is an excellent question, and our school wants to offer a wider, a bigger variety of options for our students, so that each student in our school can find the path to success, fulfillment, and enjoyment. So, as you said, and as we've said in the past about OIB and not OIB, for instance, and I know it's very confusing, OIB, OIB, I will never say OIB again. OIB, l'option internationale du bac, est une option du bac français. IB, diploma, is not a French exam. So once we have, it's a strategic decision from the Board of Trustees of Governors to open a second parallel track. And one of the goals is also to enrich the international side of the school and not, it's living together, and we believe in diversity. Awareness is part of our, so we believe that we will guide our families and our students to choose what is the best path for themselves. So I see no great danger of it. You've seen through that presentation, and that's why we decided to have this general part first. As parents in our school, you, I am sure, have noticed how many of the things that the IB offers and promotes is already part of the identity of our school, because we are already an international school. So to me, there is so much, je sais pas si on peut dire convergence en anglais, but consistency between the two, and
Harmony.
I'm sorry,
Harmony.
Harmony. That's a different, harmony between the two programs, that they really cohabitate very well, and in fact enrich each other. So we've seen that in several schools. A lot of schools in the US, particularly French schools in the US, run the two programs. It was what we had at French American, Houston Auti School run the same thing, parallel programs, Chicago, Boston, all those schools, Los Angeles, in fact. So,
and the carrier service always merged.
Yes.
It's one school.
Yeah.
It's one school, two
Yeah.
programs, many options.
And
For
then,
those of you who saw the
university application system is the same. So, sorry, the university application system is the same. So, if you go through UCAS, you can fill out either I've got my bac or I've got my IB diploma. There is no difference. There's no real difference for universities either. They're not going to say, oh, we've got an IB student, oh, we'd rather take that one than the one that has
that was my question, to be honest.
Very
candidly.
It is very important to say that.
And I think it's important.
Absolutely. We're not trying to say that there is one good, one bad, or that we have a better option. It's not that. Again, it's about a variety of options and a way to offer better opportunities for each student, more differences. As you know, I'm a very big proponent of education not being out of, in the box thinking and molding students to become, to enter little boxes. This is over. That time is over. It was over by the 14th century, by the way. At the time of Renaissance, it was over already. So by offering several options, we believe that we are fulfilling our mission, and both options, it's actually 4 options I will explain later, but both programs, the French program and the English international program leading to the IB, are high quality, super demanding academically, very well, preparing the students very well for university and extremely well recognized, both of them, in any university in the world. Students enter prestigious universities all over the world with the French bac and with the IB diploma. It has really,
We recently went to the Open Day in Oxford. Yeah. And coming from the IB, I was very curious, how much do they know the OED? They know it, or the back, and they knew it immediately. Oh yeah, it's 16 points. Yeah. So it was very good to know that is a very recognized program as well.
All over the world, not only
just a quick question.
Yes.
Are you going to be adding more students then?
Yes.
Year? So
Yes.
it's going to be in addition
Yes.
to the current.
Yes. Hopefully it is. Yes.
How many?
We hope to interest students. How many? We have room,
That's great.
Yeah. And we do want to have a strong program by the time we get to by the time we get to the full authorization, because if we have more students in the the DP year, the last 2 years, then we can offer a wider diversity of class subjects, So
that's great.
yeah, and because the IB is so much about each student choosing their path, it is important that we have a sufficient number of students to be able to do that. So,
yeah, a couple of questions.
Yes, sorry. Because of our.
Firstly, is that accessible for students which are actually in the CZM?
It will be according to our calendar, and I will talk about that. But we started the process last year. We have worked over since January when the board made the decision in the winter last year, and we started working. Well, first we recruited Micah very quickly, and before she even started working with us, she helped us start the process and fill out a huge file, and I'm very grateful to your skill, talent, and wisdom. And we submitted that in March or April and got our pre-authorization in June. So that means that we have 2 to 3 years before we can enroll students in the DP. The one thing that the IBO is very conscious about or clear about is that we cannot let students enter the DP year unless we have received full authorization. So if we receive full authorization in November 2019, well, we will have to start the program the following year. If we receive it, as we hope, in the spring of 2019, then we hope to be able, we will, and that's our goal, open the DP year, so the year 1 of the DP, première, in September 2019. So in fact, and the latest would be 20. So in fact, students who are now in 4e or before that, you will be able for sure to choose the IBDP.
And so the second question is the program accessible for children which until this point are in French program and probably not fully bilingual in English?
Yes, but there will be a lot of work. I think we have to be, it's, as we will see that as the two programs compare to each other when it goes to the preparation to the IBDP, which means the year 7 to year 10. But it's a little bit of a mirror program of what we do. What we do in the French baccalaureate is 70% in French and 30% in English or another language, and a little bit more if you go to the IB. What we will do here is 70% in English, so it is for English speakers, or native or not, of course, but English speakers, with 30% in another language, which we hope to be at least French for one, and maybe 2 languages if students choose like mother tongue or other languages. So yes, it is accessible, but it will be some work, of course, because there is a lot of written parts and the writing is quite high level. But it's nothing inaccessible in 7 years, which is the reason why we want to start recruiting our students in year 7 from the outside, starting next year, so that we have time to prepare them for the DP, because once we get to the DP, this is it, this is the exam. So the preparatory years are going to be 7 through I'm sorry, sir, but I have to let a few. We come back if you don't mind, because 2 people just behind you would like to ask a question. Madam.
I wanted to ask about the timing, but you will explain to us about when does year 7 start for IB?
Next year.
So next year, September 18?
Yes.
Okay. And that will go to year 12, 15, 19, 2019.
Well, there are 2 separate things. One thing is our process or authorization with the IBO, and that is going to take about 2 years, which means that we know that we will not be able to register students in the DP year until September 19 or maybe September 20, depending on how quickly we do that.
Year 12.
Yeah. Year 12, yes. Exactly. So we can start, what we will do from year 7 to year 11 is our own homegrown preparatory curriculum to lead to the DP with no IB authorization involved. So we can start that as soon as we want, as soon as we're ready, rather. And we have decided to start next year. And right now I'm presenting those 2 options in a primary school that every night I go around to every school that I can find, actually, but mostly the French schools right now, and then later we'll go to British schools as well. And I present the 2 options, and I said, if your children are entering year 7 next year, then there is this new possibility.
Year 7 is calculated on the British system or?
C'est la 6e. Oui, c'est la 6e. Year 7, c'est la 6e.
No, I'm just asking because, for example, I have my daughter who would enter 6e next year if she was in the French system, but she would enter year 6 only in the English system because
that's a specific.
So that's why I'm asking
specific cases.
Yeah.
In my office, if you don't mind, because I'm not even sure.
Yes,
it is a little important. It isn't.
It was the same question. The question was exactly the same. When do you start training children from, kind of splitting them between getting ready for the IB and getting ready for the baccalaureate? So I understand the answer is CZM, but for children who are already in CZM this year, they will be able to enter as well?
Yes, they could. We will see how much interest we generate, because as you know, this school has started very quickly, very fast, and very in big numbers. However, it's good to do things at a reasonable pace, so we don't want to rush anything. What I can say is that my experience and our experience in schools who run the 2 programs is that students who follow the French bac in the bilingual program will be able to switch over to, so if So that also gives time to
They
think
can
about
change
it.
their mind.
Exactly. To change their mind. The other way around might be more difficult if students are mostly English speakers and have never been in a bilingual program, switching back over to the French program.
You will assume that. For children, when children think, if children say the French in the
of course,
French
we are
program,
offering choices.
and if they think that
Yes.
the international is more suited, you will allow them to.
It is our goal to offer a variety of options. So, however, on the, our students who are in the French bilingual program have all the options open. Students who have not been in a bilingual primary school and come to us in year 7 for the English International program that we are going to open, they might not be able to take the French back. They will not be prepared for that, okay? So there is a little bit more permeability for our own students and the students who come from primary school, from French primary schools in London, for instance, or all over the world, than the other way around, right? Monsieur?
What criteria would you use to guide students down one path or the other?
Do you want to respond to that or not?
For the IB, yes.
Okay, Anton,
Yeah.
go ahead.
The criteria would be, what I would start as well with asking, especially for the DP, what would you like to do after? What kind of ideas do you have about university, about your career? Sometimes students have no idea yet, and then you can talk about, okay, what do you enjoy in school? What subjects do you enjoy? Again, the IB gives the option for 6 subjects. They might feel like, there's one subject that I can choose and I'd like to do that. So I'd rather actually do the back because that program allows me to actually do those 2 subjects together. Again, it's 6 subjects, but there are limits as to what you can choose. So that would be, one of the criteria. And of course, again, is it suitable for you? This is the amount of work that needs to be done. Do you have time for that? Are you able to invest the time in that? But to be honest, I think the back is as demanding as the IB.
Well, the IB was created by 2 inspecteurs généraux français who fled to Switzerland in the 50s. And what their inspiration came from, guess what? The bac français. So that's why you find a lot of similarities, in fact, in the way the program is, the diploma is structured. You could relate theory of knowledge to philosophy, for instance. So that's a requirement. Humanity is a requirement. A science at least, or maybe 2, it's there. I believe that your question, sir, was about how to guide our students towards one bac rather than the other. And I would say that if students know or families know for a fact that they want their student to study in France, particularly in a grande école, in a préparation grande école, I don't think the IB is for them. I think it would not be well regarded, and I would not recommend that. If your student, your child or student, is internationally minded, then he has a choice. So it depends on what does he feel more comfortable with? Is he more comfortable with a lot of French, or is he comfortable with a lot of English? And so again, it's about offering path to success and to fulfillment and to enjoyment, and prepare, yes, for university, of course, but for life, because what we do is for the rest of their life. When they leave a high school at 18, they're almost baked, ready, Now you open the oven and this is it, we've done the work. Let's see how it looks. So, but that would be my only, again, if someone or family came to us and said, I want my student to study the IB and I want him to enter French grande école, I would say, I don't think that's logical. Everything else fine, because French universities and universities all over the world are going to look at it very. And you know what? By the way, things may change between now and 2021 or 2025. I don't know what time it is, and but we're happy to take more questions. What time is it, please? 10 to. we can go to 10:30. We will have many more opportunities, of course, to talk about this and to discuss all these options. I'll take one more question that I would like to show you my 2 slides. It's just 2 slides. Madame. Madame. Ah, pardon, excusez-moi, j'ai cru qu'il y avait quelqu'un derrière vous. Non, excusez-moi. À vous. Oui, oui, à vous, excusez-moi.
Okay, I have 2 children this year, so I'm interested to know what will be the curriculum.
Ah, ben voilà, alors voilà. Ah, the perfect segue. Thank you very much. Now, how do I do this thing? Oh, because I'm technologically impaired, I guess. No. All right. Not really. All right. So, yeah, non, je ne dois pas bouger. Voilà. So our school will offer. Oh, by the way, all my presentations from now on are going to be available on the website on a special page. So, you know, you can have them all. You can, I know it's fabulous and wonderful and all that, so you can see them again, but really, no kidding, don't bother taking pictures because you can find them very easily. So now you understand that we're going to sign up with the IB in a way for only 2 years, which is the DP. So we call the IB DP, and that's the only thing we can call International Baccalaureate. So we came up with a new name for the program that is our own garden variety of preparation, leading to naturally the IBDP, and we call it an English International Program because it caters to to English speakers, not especially French speakers, and particularly it aims at attracting students who may have no prior knowledge at all of French. But because they would choose to come and do it with us, we hope that they have an interest in the French culture because they would be learning abroad in a way. You know, if you come to our school and you have never spoken French or studied French or lived in France, you're on a little island here. So we are international by nature, and we will enhance this international side of us by bringing people who don't speak French and educating them to the beauty and fun of the French culture and the French language. So we hope, at least in the first year, we will ask that our students from the outside take French as a language. They may later choose another language, a third language, if they choose to do so within the 6th thing. They may also have a little bit of French before that. They don't have to be completely ignorant of French, but there would be a French beginners and just intermediate class. There will be French immersion. There will be a couple of French immersion classes starting in year 7 for them. So they will have French instruction and they will have physical education and science in French to start as a sort of la discipline non linguistique, si vous voulez. But 70% of the program, so math and history and humanities and all that, will be taught in English. You will see after that, I'm going to show you a little bit more detail because I have 2 slides, right? Between year 7 and year 11, before the DP, we are basing our curriculum that we are designing right now and writing right now. We are basing our curriculum on what we do in the French bac because it is 1 school, 2 programs, 1 school. So it's important that students know the same thing and can talk to each other about the same thing. It's a little bit a different way of doing it because it's more inquiry-based, project-based and all that. Although we are already doing a lot of that ourselves. The main difference would be that they learn things in 1 language or the other, but they learn the same thing, the same skills, 1 school, 1 culture, 1 ethos. The students who are in that path will be also just as well as ours, just as well as the French, bac français, able to sit the IGCSE, which are taken at the end of school. There's no there will be high-level English speaker. They will probably be able to take IGCSE in more than one subject. We offer that for literature for our students because it's just a way for because they are in a French-speaking program. They need to prove that they have a high level of thinking and writing and expressing themselves in English. But for the English speakers and writers and international students of the English international program, they will have to prove rather than they are a high level in also science and another language, etc. So they might take IGCSE in French, which we don't do for our students who are bilingual, of course. Arts will be in rotation, and we have, since we have put, which means that they might do a semester of drama and then a semester of music and then a semester of visual arts. Not just one art, so that we can prepare them to choose when they get to the diploma level, whether they do one or the other. Like we do, by the way, in the French, dans le bac français. We have noted a distinct interest from the outside community since we have been able to announce by this little button that you may have seen on our website that we are a candidate school, and we have a little page for that. We receive several emails every week, or several phone calls. Admissions receive several emails and phone calls every week about how can we learn about this, when can I visit the school, and all that. So there is a wide interest, and of course, I would recommend that you talk to your international friends, whether they're British or not. But please tell people to come and see on Saturday. I will also be presenting that to people who are interested when they come for the open days. All right, there you go. So here, and again, don't take a picture because you can find it. Here you can see what over the 5 years of our preparatory program, what is going to, so I said it's not for non-French speakers. It could be French speakers, but you know, for good French speakers, we also have a great way to show to university that you're a fantastic bilingual student. So it's rather for people who don't have a high mastery of the French language. In pink are the subjects that will be taught in French and at each year level and how many periods per week. Because as you can see, as you know, that there is the IB diploma has makes less difference between the weight of the topics. We teach everything at the same level there. When we get to the diploma, students will be ready to choose higher level math or higher level literature and standard level chemistry or higher level physics. So French, in the first year, French literature will be taught to beginners, probably. And what is, well, I'm sorry, I can see that there is a little bit of contradiction in what I said and what I wrote, because I said that PE would be taught in, no, that's right, PE is in French, I'm sorry. So that's in, c'est la discipline non linguistique, sciences et PE, which will be, which will add a little bit of immersion for the English-speaking students. Of course, if we receive 30, if we enroll 30 students and 10 of them have already some French, then we will have 2 groups of French. We will have French for beginners and French for intermediate. But if we have 5 students, even if 2 of them are are already French speakers, we can't cater to that. So we are, well, you know, the school is flexible. The school tries to cater to the need of each student, so we'll do our best. But again, we're at the same point as 2 years ago, which is we don't know who's going to come through the door, and we will have to go a little bit with the flow, which sometimes allows for a few bumps, as we saw last January. There is a possibility of the mother tongue program, which I think is fabulous. I love that. And I know that international communities, I can see amongst you already, families who will be interested in that. Then the rest of it is in English. you look at the percentage taught in English and taught in French, you see that we're trying to stay at max. We decided to do a little bit more French in the beginning, or actually just a little bit more, because they're supposed to be beginner in French. But altogether it's 65-35%, 60 is almost 70-30%. This is a draft. That's what we're working on. Comme on dit dans les publicités, ça n'engage pas la responsabilité de l'annonceur. Cette photo n'est pas non contractuelle. Exactement, merci Amélie. Ce qui veut dire que nous sommes encore dans la phase et nous sommes preneurs, comme d'habitude, de suggestions et d'idées. Et si les gens veulent nous dire des choses, on est toujours content de vous entendre. Voilà. Comme promis, 2 slides. Je peux prendre quelques questions supplémentaires. Ah, very good. An online question.
Yes, the question is, will you present this to students so they can choose?
Well, that's what we're doing. Well, students, our students. We haven't thought about that yet. We like to talk to our parents first, so we're talking to our parents. I am presenting that double program in other schools as well, and I do a presentation of the school in primary schools. To our students, I don't think we have, so far I haven't, and probably I believe that parents should make the decision, but it would be interesting maybe to have their feedback. Why not? It was not on my calendar, but why not? I mean,
yes, I'm just wondering, for children who changed their mind during the process in year 8, if they enter the international program, English international program, and then they change their mind and want to go back to the French system.
That I would not recommend. I would but they might have lost a little bit of their French or not. I mean, it's difficult because it's going to be a case-by-case study. If one of our students is non-Syrian and goes to the international program and wants to come back, I would say stop and think. We have time. The students who are with us in the Bac Français, dans le programme du Bac Français, have all the time in the world. They have 5 years to think about it. So I would advise to people, right now, I don't see the emergency to switch.
Looks like the system is more catering for children that are actually mostly English speakers.
Yes.
When you've got children that are bilingual in both, I just have the impression that actually they're going to be losing their French under it, which is a bit of a shame, isn't it? I mean, when you've got only 35% of French.
This is not meant for people who are native French speakers. This is meant for...
If you've got children that are bilingual.
Then I would strongly suggest that they stay right now in the French bac until we open the DP. And then they take the DP, and then they can, in fact, they have a better, they have a fourth choice, which is to take the DP as a bilingual DP, because they're going to be able to take French and English at both at native level. So, and that way, yes. Sir. Sir and madam. Monsieur.
Because we see for the bilingual advantage of our children, but for the IB program will be followed in English as an understand how to keep this advantage. And so also I'd like to know, so what's the difference to follow the IB program in our French school than the other intentions?
That is an excellent question, sir. I'm very happy you asked it. So the question for our YouTuber is, how different would the experience be following the English International and then the IBDP program in our school rather than any other international school? That's right? Yeah. Well, I believe that we are a little island. We are international already. We have 65 nationalities. Our teachers have lived altogether, our teachers have lived in 57 different countries. So if Micah and I have lived in the US, that's one country. So that's a lot of international experience. And I believe that we have already created a very international community of parents, of students, and of educators. So I believe that we are a microcosm more than maybe, and because everybody here has to think and speak in two languages. Everybody has to rub elbows with other cultures. Our Spanish teachers come from Spain and from Latin America. Our Mandarin teachers come from 3 different parts of China. Our PE teachers come from France and South Africa and Ireland, you know, and so we have brought the world to our school through our community, and I believe that we have created an environment that is particularly fertile for that program because it's a globally minded program. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, other question, how to keep their French advantage. So at the same time with the IB program. Because so for IB program, it's very in English and compared with the other English speakers.
Yeah.
So they were any taught in French or
I'm not sure I hear you very well because you're at the very can you speak a little louder?
Where our children continue their French education. So for in the IB program or not?
They will, because first of all, in the before they study, are we talking just about the IBDP?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, they can. They can take, if they have been with us dans le bac français for several years, they can still switch, and they can probably, they will necessarily be at the level of 2 native languages, and that will give them something that, to my knowledge, no other school in London has, which is a bilingual DP. We have to research that, but so they could take French and English as language A instead of having language A. Please come. Yeah, because I'm not sure about my.
What this school will be able to offer as well, what no other international school offers in London, is not just the language subjects in French, for example, or in the native language, but we are also able to offer, for example, geography in French, should a student with, and math in French, because the IB has 3 main languages, and that's French, Spanish, and English. So exams are also published in French. And so that gives our school a bit of a different experience from all the other international schools, that we are able to also cater for those students that have a very high level of French and that would like to take some exams in French as well, like geography or math.
Or physics, again, it depends a little bit on how many students we have in a cohort, because you don't create classes for 4 or 5. But we hope to have a cohort big enough to offer, and we already have the knowledge and human resources in our staff to teach in several topics in several languages. But it will be different also by the fact that we hope to make the international program, the English International, a vector for the French culture as well. We hope to introduce people to the French culture through that too. Okay. Maybe a last question. Yes.
Can I ask you in French? It's easier for me.
Et bien sûr, mais un tout petit peu plus fort s'il vous plaît, parce que.
Pour des enfants qui vont prendre le bac français,
oui.
Est-ce qu'il serait intéressant ensuite de passer le B, par exemple, de faire les 2 à la suite?
Ah, très bien, j'ai oublié de parler de ça.
Donc là, l'année prochaine.
C'est une très bonne question.
Donc après, en 2019, est-ce qu'il pourrait être intéressant de faire les 2 ou...
Pour ceux qui sont déjà en première et pour qui ça sera trop tard de passer le IB, non, franchement, je ne pense pas. Non, parce que le bac est aussi bien reconnu que le IB, ça n'ajoutera rien. Bon. En revanche, pour ceux, et dans ce cas-là, si votre enfant est dans ce cas, ça veut dire que c'est un bon candidat pour l'OIB du bac français. C'est ça que je lui recommande. S'il entre en première, il faut qu'il prenne l'OIB parce que c'est ça qui montre qu'il est bilingue. D'accord? En attendant, du moins. Ceci dit, une fois qu'on va ouvrir le IBDP, il sera possible aux élèves qui sont dans le bac français de passer en plus des certificats, c'est-à-dire pas tout le diplôme, mais un des certificats, mother tongue, ou maths en anglais, ou maths en français, et ce que je veux dire. Donc, ils pourront prendre des certificats, évidemment, et le bac et le IBDP sont super, vous l'avez vu, c'est pas quand même trop facile, hein. Il y a beaucoup de travail. Moi, j'étais épatée de constater, parce que c'était très précis et très détaillé, merci beaucoup pour cette parfaite présentation en détail et avec élégance et talent du diplôme. Mais j'étais épatée de constater en préparant, en relisant les diapos que j'avais préparés, que les 4000 mots du examen essai, je ne sais pas combien d'heures de community service et tout ça, et le troisième, et le extended essay, tout ça, sur 45 points, ça concourt. Et c'est du boulot, hein. Franchement, c'est vraiment... Donc, il faut penser que les deux, et nos élèves du bac français travaillent énormément. Ils ont un énorme programme, quelle que soit la série. Les élèves, c'est pour ça que ces deux programmes sont très compatibles. Ce sont des programmes pour des gens qui ont des ambitions universitaires et de là élevées, et des enfants qui vont avoir envie de continuer à l'école. Ça, c'est sûr que les deux sont des programmes très académiques, quand même si, dans les deux cas, on cherche aussi à promouvoir d'autres qualités. Et les élèves qui sont en bac français maintenant peuvent faire le Duke of Edinburgh, qui ressemble beaucoup au CAS. Une dernière, est-ce qu'on a une autre question en ligne? Bon, eh bien écoutez, chère famille et chers youtubeurs, je vous remercie à tous d'avoir été avec nous ce matin. Encore une fois, c'est le début d'un deuxième, enfin de la suite de notre longue odyssée vers un lycée qui offre des possibilités excitantes et enthousiasmantes pour nos élèves et pour vos enfants. À tous un très grand merci. À très bientôt pour plus d'informations. Et n'oubliez pas de nous envoyer, de nous faire savoir, connaître la manière dont vous recevez, vous entendez et vous imaginez ce que nous allons faire ici. Merci à tous et à très bientôt. Au revoir.